We now move on to the most important chapter. It is the chapter where everything unravels, where everything becomes clear to us. This particular chapter is titled The Pessimist and the Optimist. Okay, and it begins. This is a very, very long and important chapter, and I want you all to read it very, very carefully because many, many things will become clear to us in this particular chapter. So, chapter 13, The Pessimist and the Optimist. Okay, so this chapter opens on an afternoon after Sophie Mall's arrival in Imanam House, where Sophie Mall and Margaret Kochama are resting in Chaco's room. Okay, and while Margaret Kochama is still sleeping, Sophie Mall wakes up and she assesses the room around her and she sees the things that are kept there. And she sees a wedding picture of Margaret Kochama and Chaco. Okay, and this is the point where Arundhati Roy takes us very, very back into the past, and she describes how Margaret Kochama and Chaco met and how they were married. All right, we already know that Chaco was a Rhodes Scholar in Oxford, England, and Margaret Kochama was actually a waitress. She was also studying, but to meet her expenses, she was a waitress. And one fine day, Chaco enters this cafe for his breakfast, and he tells Margaret Kochama a joke. Okay, and this joke is actually in the form of a story called The Pessimist and the Optimist. It's about two sons who are pessimistic and optimistic. All right, I won't go into the details of that. All right, so that is one story that he tells Margaret Kochama, and even though Margaret Kochama does not find it amusing, that story is not funny for her, but she is very amused by the way in which Chaco was laughing at his own joke. So she actually started laughing at his joke, and he was very charming. He was very he was not very cleanly dressed. He was wearing very messed up clothes, and even his room and all, when it's later described, it's all very messed up. All right, but Margaret Kochama somehow falls in love with this man, and he becomes a way for her to to go beyond her own small life that was confined within the British island. Okay? She wanted to go beyond, and Chaco was a means for that. And they soon got married, and this marriage was without the knowledge of Chaco's family. They did not know about this marriage at that point. And Margaret Kochama's family was not approving because obviously she was marrying an Indian guy, so they did not like it. All right. And they were in love and they got married, and once they got married, the problem started because by that time Chaco's education had been completed, so his scholarship money was over. All right, and now that his scholarship money was over, he couldn't find a job, and there was lack of money, and with her waitress salary they had to pay the rent, they had many other expenses, and things started unraveling then. She was pregnant with Sophie Mall when she met Joe, and Joe was everything that Chaco wasn't. The kind of things that she was amused by about Chaco. I told you how he was messy, and he did not clean his room. He never cared about anything, and those things, even though they were charming for Margaret Ochama earlier, became disturbing for her when they got married, and she could not handle all of that. And Joe was steady. He had a good job. He was thin. Okay. And Chaco, because he did not have a job and he was not doing anything, he started becoming fat. So he was everything that Chaco wasn't. And obviously she fell in love with Joe because of all of that. And by when Sophie Moore was born, she decided that she could not live like this any longer, and she asked Chaco for a divorce. And he returned to India, where he could easily find a job because he was an Oxford scholar. But even then, he was fat and lazy, so he did not want to continue working there. And that is when Papaji dies and he comes to run the factory. All right. And that is what the first chapter part of this chapter describes. Their story, their love story, is described in a very, very long manner, and the relationship that they had, and how even when Chaco finally, it is only when he had no money that he finally wrote a letter to Mamachi saying that he's married and he needs money. So even though Mamachi did not actually approve of this marriage, she still sells her jewelry and sends him some money. After all of this, we come back to the present again, of how Margaret Kochema, after the event, the terror that happened, how she behaved and how she kept, even until the day that she died, she could not erase the image of uh, her daughter's body that was laid out in Aymanam's house. All right, and she never forgave herself for leaving Sophie Mall alone there during that weekend. She had actually gone with Chaco to Cochin when this happened. She had gone to Chaco with Chaco to Cochin to book their return tickets, and she never got over that image of seeing the drowned, white puckered body of her child that was stretched out on a lounge. Um, from this point in the story, we fast forward to the day of Sophie Mall's death. What happened actually is again not presented in a chronological manner. It is again broken up, but it becomes clear. All right. So Sophie Mall's death, the morning when people find Sophie Mall's body, Esther and Rahel are missing. Okay, so what happened, where did they go, and all will become clear to us later. A child's body is found floating in the river, and it is this, and a fisherman, when he lays his nets, he gets her body, and they realize that it is Sophie Mall and she's brought. But at that point, Margaret Kochama and Chaco are not there; they're in Cochin. Okay, and that is when in the morning the elders, that is Mamachi and Baby Kochama, they realize that the children are missing. They have not come for their morning milk, and suddenly Mamachi becomes worried because the previous night it had rained, and she hoped that the children had not gone near the river, and they start looking. And Baby Kochama goes to Ammu, who is locked in a room. Okay, now why she is locked in a room is again not defined, but she was locked in the room, and Baby Kochama from outside asks her if she knows where the children are, and she does not reply. And that is when Ammu, suddenly she is very, very angry for some reason, which is not described yet, but will become clear to us later. Ammu, who was very angry and disturbed at being locked up like this, she suddenly realizes, she remembers the last words that she had told her children before they went missing. And that is when she was locked into the room, the children had come to her asking, what happened, why are you locked in the room? And she had said, it is because of you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I should have dumped you in the orphanage the day that you were born. You are millstones around my neck, so you are like എൻ്റെ ഭാരമാണ് നിങ്ങൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്നു. Okay, and she was in a different state of mind. She was angry, and she was not angry at the children, but she was angry at everything else, and that is why she reacted in that way. But the children were very, very small, and she wanted, when she says that just leave me alone, the children actually do, they leave her alone. Okay, so they go somewhere, and where it is will become clear to us later. From this, again, this story is moving to another scene. All right, and this scene is a very, very drunk Velyapapan. Remember Velita's father, who's coming and into the Aymanam house's kitchen, back door kuda vannu kitchen lu varuvana. Appam Kochu Maria, she's sitting there and cutting some fish. She ignores him for some time because she knows that he's drunk, but he keeps saying that he wants to see Mamachi. And when Mamachi comes in, what happens is that, I don't know if I've told you, but in the previous chapter, it's told of how Velyapapan, he lost his eye when he was doing some granite work. Okay. And that's why Mamachi was the one who paid for him to have his eye fixed up. But a glass eye that looks like an eye was put inside his eye, almost like our Mad Eye Moody's eye, remember? So he had that kind of an eye inside his socket. All right. Now what he does is he's removed this glass eye from his eye socket, and he's placing it in front of Mamachi and saying that, please take it back, I don't deserve it. Now Mamachi, who is almost blind, she cannot see, so she thought that she places her hand and she touches this eye, and she realizes that it's an eye, and she goes and washes her hand. And that is when Velyapapan says that, what happened, she asks, and he tells Mamachi about Velta and Ammu's affair. He says that for many, many nights he has been seeing that the small river has been crossing, a small boat has been crossing the river with two people, a man and a woman, and how they spent hours and hours in the history house. They're going to Kari Sahib's house, and obviously they're having some illicit relationships. And Velyapapan is very much disturbed because he knows that this is his son who is doing this, and it is against their caste. He is an untouchable while they are touchables, right? Now Mamachi, when she hears this, she responds very, very violently. She pushes Velyapapan out of the door, and that is when Baby Kochama comes in and she calms them all down, and she questions him more about who, when, where, how many times, and all of that. So that is when they come up with a plan. Ammu is tricked into going into her bedroom, and she's locked there, and they call Velita. All right. And what happens then after calling Velta is again not described. All right. From that point, directly